Don't know me. I'm Jamie. This is Vera and Brett and Waylon, and we moved here this summer. We are longtime Asheville residents. Happy to be here. Love living here. I'm here to ask, and my neighbor laughed at me when I asked this, when I said I was going to do this, but we are here just to inquire about the mail. We have such an issue with the mail. We have an issue with our car registration. We have issues with getting our licenses. I mean, even down to like Facebook Marketplace. I can't put an offer in on a thing because on an item on Facebook Marketplace because it won't recognize 141 Holston Lane, Black Mountain 48711, and you can't use a PO box on Facebook Marketplace. So, and then of course it came down to any kind of FEMA claim, and luckily we were able to call with the FEMA claim. But it's kind of a daily annoyance. I've had to call, 911, the non-emergency 911 to try to get our address, fixed on our on multiple government documents. Because I guess the 911 county is the people that organize this. But what I would like to inquire on, and also I guess do a little complaining is, I would just like a mailbox too. I understand that Ridgemont has mailboxes and Black Mountain Post Office delivers for them. So I guess we really don't want to pay $170 a year for a PO box we don't use, especially as we're both full-time employed and it's very difficult to get to the post office. And we would just like a post office at our house or, a mailbox at our house and not pay $170 for a post office box we don't want. So I've already contacted my representative and they seemed interested in asking, pursuing what the difference, what the next steps would be. But I would like to inquire for y'all, what is the background on this? How can we change this? Why has it not been changed already? And yeah, that's it.
First of all, we have a post office with boxes.
Yeah.
We have no home delivery up here.
Yeah.
There are no boxes on the street and people do not want mailboxes all up and down every street. So we've never applied. We can turn it over to Black Mountain and they wouldn't do the delivery. They would do the home delivery. But we would have to have post office boxes at every house, on every street for that to happen. And most people don't particularly care for that. Most of us have learned to work through it. If you have trouble with a package, just put 301 Assembly Drive, which is the post office, and they'll deliver it there. And the post office is open right now. If you were working and you came home from work at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you could go by the post office then or up until, I think, all night it's open. So,
but if you have a package and it's too big for that slip, if it's too big for the package,
they have big boxes down there that they can put it in. They put a key in your post office box.
yeah.
You go to that big box and you open it up.
Sometimes the package might be too big.
They store it in the back. They put a little plastic thing in your box to let you know, and you bring that up to them.
Well, we have to pay. Of course we have to. We have a box, but then you have to go there when they're open and get a key for the big box, for the big boxes, so, I understand that it's the way it's been forever, but it seems like, there are a lot of people that would like mailboxes.
Let me just add something that to Tim's comment too, Jamie, and that is we can have home delivery or we can have a post office. We can't have both.
Why is that? Because Ridgemont has
Ridgecrest
has both.
Ridgecrest uses the Black Mountain post office.
But they have their own post office too.
We could have our own post. We could have the building, not necessarily the boxes, but Black Mountain would be happy to take over delivery. But personally, I don't want a mailbox out on my street. I don't want to see my street lined up with mailboxes. Look like a mobile home park or something. I just don't want it.
Jamie, I think the difference, well, this is loud. I think the difference with that is because we're an incorporated city. We're our own municipality. Ridgecrest is not. they are part of Black Mountain in a way that we're not.
Uh-huh.
So it's just not really a comparable issue.
Is Ridgecrest not incorporated?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
But aren't there corporations that have mailboxes? And
I mean, sure,
Yeah.
but we've been told, Montreat, the town has been told, you cannot have home delivery and your own post office. So if we were to have home delivery, our whole postal system would be absorbed by the Black Mountain Post Office, and they would take our post office away. And I think the history and the tradition of the Montreat Post Office is that it has been a very special gathering place. It's almost acted as like a community center. Folks gather there daily, and there's just not an appetite to change that. I think for most people. But this has been a discussion that's been had many, many times, and I'd be happy to like fill you in on more of the history and the details of that if you're interested. But it's definitely it's something that we've worked on. There's just not a good, like, simple, clean solution, unfortunately.
I guess I understand that people don't want it to look like a mailbox, like a mobile home, but I mean, I don't feel that there's lots of very nice, I mean, Biltmore Forest, which has the highest, highest per capita income in the state. They have mailboxes.
Sure. And I think that maybe, to actually get real numbers on this or something, we'd have to send out a survey. But I think that the difference is that there's just a history with the post office in Montreat that makes it feel a little bit different for folks.
So when you say, who has told you that you can't have both?
The federal government, the postal.
So y'all have,
yeah.
the post office has told you, like,
Yeah,
is it coming
it's
through?
one or the other. It's just their staffing, I guess, limitations don't allow for another home delivery person to be employed in Montreat. There's a whole litany of reasons that we've been given in the past of why we can't have both, but it's just that's what we've been told. And we've inquired about this as recently as this summer. Yeah, and that's another consideration is the trucks. It would have to be somebody who walks house to house because the trucks can't pass a lot of the roads. Yeah, which is an added difficulty for the post office and another reason why they would want to see our whole post office be absorbed by Black Mountains.
It's just becoming like, I don't know. It's like, at what point does like a continued annoyance be okay? I mean, it's just like
Sure,
our daily lives are being impacted by this. Like I mean, I had like a package was delivered over in Ridgecrest because there's a 141 Holly Street, so it's very daily difficult.
I understand. It's definitely inconvenient. And I think especially I have a young family as well. It's not the easiest thing in the world on top of everything else to get to the post office. But it's the way I see it is kind of one of those quirks of living in Montreat. It's just like a quirky thing. And I'm not saying that it can't be changed or it maybe won't eventually be changed. I will say that I don't think that there is an appetite to change it in the community.
Okay.
And yeah.
Well, I guess I might start a petition anyway and just see how many people I can get. And
who's the petition going to be? Have to be the postal service because we can't do anything.
The representative that seemed to be interested in helping me with this, and maybe it won't work, but I mean,
and I know other people have
the same thing every day, then
yeah, other people have difficulties as well. And I'm happy to sit down and talk with you more offline about kind of these grassroots efforts in the past and how they've ended. Yeah, it's not pretty, but I'm happy to sit down and go through all that with you. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Amazon gets here.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll add too that some people would have a hard time even finding a place to put a box. They literally don't have a place to put a mailbox.
It's not the only mountain community though, and that every other mountain communities have figured it out somehow. So it just seems like if they can figure it out, maybe we can figure it out.
Savannah said, I don't think there's an appetite up here. Good change. Who's up next? Mike's still open. Brad?
So I'm Brad Hester, 192 Mississippi Road. Two matters. They both have to do with trees, since I'm on the tree board. I'll start with the more interesting one, I think, which is thinking about what the damage that we experienced here with the storm, and thinking about trees and all the trees that have come down and the big pile of trees that we have in the former ballpark. I think the community could benefit from more education about tree safety and how to recognize a tree on your property that is sick, that might come down on your house, kind of thing. And there are signs that you can see. So I'm going to be working on trying to develop an event that we can have here in the community for people to come and learn from experts about basic things that can be done about tree safety. What do you see if you see a tree that's got little white flowers growing around it? Those mean that your roots are sick, things like that. So I'm just saying that I'm thinking about this, and I'm inviting members of the council, anybody that'd like to put a bug in my ear about an issue, please do. And I'll be going ahead and talking with the tree board as much as I can about getting something going. The other
I
thing,
think that's a great idea.
yeah, thanks for the other thing is I'm realizing, this time of year has always seems to be has been difficult for tree board and meeting, because often holiday seasons interfere with tree board meeting times. So we've changed the meeting time to the second week of the month, to be able to have more time during holiday months to meet, so it doesn't fall on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving or whatever. But this is that week, and it's not happening again because meetings are not happening. This has been an extremely difficult year for us to get business done, because we had COVID, and now we've got the impact of the storm that considered about. And my term is ending in January, and I'm feeling like there's so much left undone. And I'm not sure that the current members of the board there's some very skilled people on the board that can certainly take up responsibilities. I'm just not feeling real settled myself in how the tree board is gonna do the transition from one year to the next this time. And I'm just putting that out. I had intended to talk to Mason before this, but events interfered. So it's just a thought that's on my mind, a concern that I have. And that's another thing I welcome conversation with certainly with Mason and with anybody else. So.
Brad, are you rotating off? Do you have to rotate off?
I think maybe I am. I wouldn't mind considering an extension if it's possible.
Well, we'll have Savannah and Angie check that out and see. That might settle your mind some. Thanks, Brad. Who else? Yes, sir.
My name is Dean Carter. My wife Lee and I live at 340 Texas Road. And we have lived at the property maybe 4 years now. So if you're not familiar with the property, it's on the part of Texas Road that's between Community Circle Drive and then Lookout. So it's not on the down the hill. So, and what we want to bring to the attention of the council is that we think that portion of Texas Road is a safety hazard because the traffic is too fast on it. So Now, we've noticed in the past year or so, there's been a great increase of people parking on the road because I think somewhere else street parking was prohibited. So naturally, they came to Texas Road. So that's an issue, but so the street is very narrow. So if you see my property, there's a very high stone wall at street level, maybe 10 feet high. So many times that I have come down to that street level with either myself or my dogs. There's a college student going 30 miles an hour, almost clips us, almost hits us. So even if I'm like slowly peeking my head out around the corner of the wall, it's still, they buzz on by. So maybe just to highlight that to you, that I think it's a safety hazard for myself and my guests and maybe my neighbors. And so maybe if I did offer a suggestion, maybe make that portion of Texas Road one way coming from the south. So the blind spot, we wouldn't get whacked from the blind spot coming out of our house. So that's all.
Speak to the chief back here and give him your address, and perhaps he can, come up with a solution through the chief.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Who's up?
Wade Burns, expatriate, ETJ resident. I just want to say it as I'm approaching my octogenarian year. I am enjoying seeing some new people. I came up here to live permanently 25 years ago, and almost everybody up here who was in the midst of everything is gone now, as I will be before too long. And I love seeing children like I was lucky enough to have, 19 years ago up here at that age. And so I welcome the newer folks. It takes getting used to us. It may be impossible, but it's a great community. Got an awful lot going for it. And I'm appreciating you all being here because this forum was important to the new people. And so I just reaffirm what I said before. It's a gift that y'all do this. Thank you.
Thanks, Wade. Who else? Floor's open. Yes, Martha.
Martha Campbell, 304 Texas Road. I'm hoping that I've been able to begin to solve a problem that's a postal problem. We renewed our driver's licenses online because of the storm and you couldn't get another appointment and blah, blah, blah. And then I got a call from the DMV in Brevard, and they said they had our new licenses that were undeliverable to Montreat. And we would have to drive to Brevard to the DMV to pick them up. They tried to send them to the DMV in Asheville and they were refused because you can't forward a driver's license, the envelope with the actual license in it. And as I got to know this woman over some days of conversation, they got a whole batch of driver's licenses, the actual license from Raleigh. The envelopes are absolutely correctly addressed to our post office box, the right zip, the whole thing in the envelope. But they got them delivered to Brevard because we are apparently not deliverable according to that part of the DMV. So I'm in touch with Representative Ager. The interesting thing is the very week she called me, we got the bill for the new taxes on one of our cars from the DMV addressed to the same address. So they're glad to send us a bill, but they couldn't send us renewed licenses. So if anybody else has that happen, we had to drive to Brevard to a little office place to the DMV, and they had all these people in line and really want us to get ahead of them to just pick up our envelope. And I don't blame them. They've been sitting there for a long time. And who are these people? We don't know them. So it is more than an inconvenience, really, to not be able to receive some items from the state. So all I know is to get in touch with Representative Ager and see if he can contact. If you all have another idea, I'll get in touch with how many ever people I need to. I mean, we got the licenses, but we were able to go there, but that's not true for everybody. So if you have an idea, let me know.
And Martha, you said that the envelope was addressed correctly?
Absolutely, absolutely correctly. There was no street address, which we know is on the license itself, you know, has your
Yeah.
street address. No, it was the post office box because they have both. They obviously have both. And when you renew your license, you give them a mailing address too. So
Just curious, I'm wondering if this could have been a complication of when the post office had been temporarily relocated to
this
Ridgecrest
was last week.
last week.
Yeah. And I said to the woman, well, we have a post office and it works and we get our mail and please just forward it. And she said, we're not allowed by law to forward a driver's license. It's your ID.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want it just traveling all over, but they got a batch. She said, she didn't know where Montreat was. She said, we got them from all over the place. So she opened up the envelope and tried to find out who we were. And she got my cell number. Now they can find you anywhere. She got my cell number and she called. And we talked several different times. They really tried. They were as confused as anybody. They just got this some sort of good sized batch. But if you all have any other ideas for how to, I understand it's a disaster and everything, but we do, we got their bill.
I really believe the issue is probably with the DMC.
Oh, I think it is too,
So,
but
so it's not really a postal issue.
oh, no, it's not a postal issue at all. I asked at the post office and of course they'd never heard of that. So, but it could be a continued inconvenience for other people here if they believe that we're, I don't know, fell off the map or something. So if you have any other ideas, I'll follow
I
up.
think contacting Representative Ager was probably the best thing to do. And then I'll also do a little bit of digging on that because that's
Okay.
really interesting. I know Angie was just telling me, and I had heard before that it's interesting that it was Brevard because our zip codes are very similar.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm going to look into it also.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. The more people who look into it, it'll ring somewhere and they may say, oh, sorry, but I just don't want it to happen to others as a continuing process. Thanks.
Our government and our tax dollars at work. Who's up? Anyone? Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn until 6 o'clock, at which time we'll start our regular meeting. Have a motion from Commissioner Whitmer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. We stand adjourned until 6 o'clock. Time to start the meeting. Commissioners, if you'll come to your seats, please. Hey, Don, how? Folks, it's 7 o'clock and it's time, I mean, 6 o'clock. I still don't know the time. It's time to start the meeting. We do not have a flag to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone will just bow their head in a moment of silence before we start our regular meeting. Amen. Commissioners, you've received the agenda and had a chance to look it over. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Mr. Mayor, I suggest an adoption of the agenda, but with one revision, and that's on item new business C. I would like to make sure that it's shown on the record that it is a proclamation for Public Works and Police Department employees.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
I move to adopt.
Commissioner Dasher has moved to adopt. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is adopted. Folks, we're quite a few weeks past the storm now. We've made a lot of adjustments, but there are a lot of adjustments to be made yet. A lot of work to be done yet. We're probably going to have a water leak along. The ground is very unsettled after all this storm and all the water we had. A lot of disruption. So the creek is never going to be the same. It's not going to be like it was last year or the year before. A lot of changes. It's deeper and wider in a lot of spots. Our bridges are in very good shape so far. I don't think we're going to have to replace any of them, except for maybe the walking bridge. We got some work to do on that. But we've got a long way to go, and it's going to take time, so be patient. It takes time and it takes money, and our crew, staff in the office and town services staff and our police department are working on all these things. They've got items prioritized and they're going at them one at a time. And this is a pretty big elephant we're eating, and we're going to do it one bite at a time. So with that, I'll turn it over to consent agenda. Savannah.
On the consent agenda this evening, there are the September 12th Public Forum meeting minutes, the September 12th Town Council meeting minutes, the October 25th Special Town Council meeting minutes, and the October 31st Special Joint Meeting of Board of Commissioners and Audit Committee meeting minutes. And that's it for your consent agenda. I don't have much for communications this evening. I just want to thank everyone for their continued patience while we get things cleaned up. We are working on assessing damages. That work will continue for several weeks, especially as we continue to pick up debris, move things. New issues will come to our attention. I do not have a timeline for you on paving, and I know that's weighing on people's minds. I just don't have it yet, but we'll keep you informed. We will have a bulk pickup on Tuesday, December 3rd. So make sure that your bulk items are, or do they schedule that with you? Or do they put it on the curbside? Put them on the curbside. Thanks, Angie. And then I also want to welcome 2 new people to the Montreat Police Department. Hannah Wells has started as a full-time police officer. She works night shift. She was top of her class in BLET and successfully went through Black Mountains field training. And we're really excited to have her. She's a great young officer. We also have a new reserve police officer, Brandon Collins, also a great young officer. And you'll be seeing him work a variety of shifts. He'll just be filling in for the time being. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay,
Question.
sure.
Is Fred Tennant a reserve officer too?
Fred Tennant is a reserve officer.
Jumped in so well.
That's right. Yes, we depend, because we're a small department, we depend on those reserve officers. They do a lot of work for us, and having a reliable reserve officer like Fred or Brandon is very valuable.
That's great.
Savannah, a question for you. Helena Debris, question and a statement. Helena Debris goes on the street, not in the street, but on the street. And private owners are asked not to take it down to the ball field. Is that correct?
That's correct. Please do not take debris from your private property to Welsh Field. That is for public debris that we pull off public rights of way and public property only. We have a contract with FEMA. They're going to come in, their contractor Ashbrit is going to come in and chip all of that up for us and haul it away. But we only get that service provided to us if we don't mess it up. And having people put their debris from private property there would be a problem for us. So you can take your debris, vegetative debris, you can leave it on the side of the road. Please don't block any driveways. Please don't block any roadways. And the public works crew will be picking that up.
The only reason I mentioned that is I continually see trailers going down the Graybeard with loads of stuff on them, and I just wonder where they're going. Matter of fact, I've seen one or two on weekends on the ball field, and they're not allowed there. So if somebody's hauling debris for you, they cannot haul it to the ball field. They need to take it on somewhere else. Administrative reports. Commissioners, you've received reports from the administration, the planning and zoning, the police department, public works and water, sanitation, streets, September building and permit information, and the October building permit information. Did you have any questions or comments on any of those reports?
It wouldn't be a meeting if I didn't ask about something. On the water and public works report, new water lines installed. It says 450 feet for October, assuming, of course, that has to do with Helene. However, that contradicts the comments that Barry made at the October 25th special town council meeting, where he said there was 900 feet of water line that was busted up and installed. And the only reason I bring that up is that's important for two reasons. It's important probably for FEMA, for one. And then secondly, it's important because in the audit committee, we were talking about our infrastructure and the need to keep it up to date, and a difference of 2 times would be pretty big in terms of what we're writing off.
Yes, I'll ask Barry about that. He is out of the office, but I'll get some clarity on that. I'm just not sure without him here to answer that, sure, what the right answer is, but we'll follow up. I will say, I think that we've replaced much more than 450 feet of water line. I think that 900 number is probably the correct number.
Graybeard was over, I think, right at 500. So it's, anyway. Floor is open for public comment.
So I'm Shirley Mitchell, 201 Harmony Lane. I beat Wade by a few years. I'm full-time, 28 years. And what Wade may not know, but he may know, I prayed for a wife for him. And the Lord brought Susie. And sometimes we were in the parade next to each other long ago. And I have just enjoyed Wade. He is so refreshing to me. Anyway, so I just want to say that about Wade. And when we moved here, the young couple has left, but I didn't know Montreat. Charlie and I came from the state of Washington. We had bought our lot in 1980, thought we were ripped off. It was $9,000. They had just doubled, you know, never thought we would live here. Anyway, my father's family came here, Charlie's family came here. So here we are, but I didn't know Montreat. So I went to every meeting I could go to. And I was trying to find what's the center of Montreat. I can't find it. And I really think it's the people that came here for clubs years ago. I couldn't find a center. But the way I feel about this town now, I just think it is in such a good place. It is in such a good place. I want to, number one, about Helene, I didn't get a lot of communication because we had AT&T. And so if someone didn't come and knock on my door and tell me blah, 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 I didn't have a clue. I think the town has done an unbelievable job driving through this town, knowing what it looked like. I'm astounded. I want to publicly commend Richard DuBose. His leadership, his graciousness has been huge. So I wanted to commend him. I was expecting paper tonight, so I wrote some of this down. Letta Jean Taylor. I have known what Letta Jean Taylor did for this town, how she came alongside what I will publicly say was a corrupt people in office, and I'll back it up. And what do? So she just came alongside. I think what she did for the town, I don't know that anyone that didn't live through it can appreciate. And she was out there handing out water at the gate at one point, several days. I'll add that Skip Taylor worked on our house as a full-time employee, took no pay because our house was so delayed being finished. So they matter to me. Okay, I want to publicly thank Savannah. This town is so unbelievably blessed to have you. You are so professional. You keep it so light. And here you had to go find another place to live, right? Yeah. And then Angie Murphy. I cannot say enough for Angie. I'm always writing her these things, these short things, because I don't have it. She is back so fast. I just want us to give Angie a hand of applause.
Yes. Floor is open. Yes, ma'am, Martha.
Well, for the record, we all know how blessed we are to have our water that's potable. And we all have family and friends who live just beyond us who don't. And it is a huge tribute. And I've been thinking about how that happened. And since you mentioned Letta Jean, under the leadership of Letta Jean and previous town administrator Ron Nally and our public works staff, we had grants, and the council at the time, we had grants ready to go for digging additional wells. Back in the days, you may know that we had to buy some of our water from Black Mountain. And we had those papers all researched, all ready. And when Barack Obama became president, there was money that was put out for infrastructure for what was called shovel-ready projects. And we had our projects ready. Part of the work was done by Public Works. Part of it was paid because we didn't make our own pumps and stuff. But we were able to have the rest of the wells drilled. And that's why we have water today that we can use to drink and brush our teeth and all those things. You realize how much you use the potable part of your water. So I wish to commend them publicly for the work that went into that. And it just shows what foresight, when you're looking ahead, what a difference it can make for the future.
Who else? Seeing no one, public comment session will be closed. We have 2 items under old business. Item A is a text amendment. Savannah, you want to present that?
Yes, so these items are related. We're going to review the actual amendment to the text, and then we'll decide whether we want to move forward with that or maybe continue it to a different meeting. And then if the text is approved, then we'll just adopt the amendment to the ordinance. So this text amendment was actually submitted by Mayor Pro Tem Mason Blake on behalf of the Board of Commissioners. And this is to comply with the legislative update from, this is for funds for maintenance of stormwater facilities and for stormwater rules for redevelopment projects. So essentially what happened was that the General Assembly passed some new legislation and we need to update our ordinance to be in compliance. And I'm going to let our attorney, Brandon Freeman, say more. Hi, Brandon.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Sorry, this mic is hot. All right. I believe these ordinance, I think we looked at them a few weeks ago and I reported back to the board that there was one issue I wanted to look at a little more closely and make sure that we were in line with state law. We are. This is pretty boring stuff. The School of Government every year puts out legislative reports for local governments and says, these are the changes that we think you need to make to your local ordinances to keep them in line with state law. To the best of our ability, we took those recommendations from the School of Government and used the exact language that was in the state law to make sure that we were in lockstep with those state laws. That was our aim when we made the edits to our ordinances. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone's taken the time to read and look at these.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Are we talking about the ordinance or are we talking about the
Text amendment.
text amendment? It's the text amendment.
Yes, sir, the text amendment to the ordinance.
Okay.
Yep.
Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion to adopt. Suggested motion is to move to adopt or not adopt.
I've got
the
three
revision.
revisions that I've talked about. I don't know. I'm not sure it's, so I've got three revisions I talked with Kayla this afternoon on. All of those revisions are in paragraph 2C of the ordinance. Our ordinance as rewritten. They all relate to a sentence starting out, 4 structural BMPs constructed prior to August 16, 2003. You get about 3 lines down. It says construction of the structure BMP, that should be structural. And then as you go further with 2/3 of the total amount of, and the next word is deposited, and that the word's missing. And the words that I've suggested to Kayla, and she's agreed probably were good suggestions to insert, are such initial construction cost. So they would read the total amount of such initial construction costs deposited within the first 5 years following initial construction completion. And then also the last sentence of 2C, there's also missing something. After the word, it says the full amount being deposited within 10 years of initial construction, which is fine, but we need to add the following language, which would read, and the full amount being deposited within 10 years after initial construction completion. I reviewed didn't get a chance to review the ordinance until this morning. Noticed those problems, brought it to Kayla's attention with my suggested changes. Brandon, she was going to try to reach you, but it obviously didn't get in touch with you. So without changing it, the ordinance isn't ready to adopt. There are holes in it. And I think the language I've got works, but we may want to defer it until Brandon looks at the language and we're certain, but we don't need to revise the ordinance when it's a problem.
Do I have a motion to defer?
I move that we defer.
I have a motion from Commissioner Alexander that we defer text amendment 2022-04 to the next meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Whitmer. Discussions? Questions? All in favor of deferring, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Item B is text amendment 2024-04, adoption of ordinance. Savannah?
So this is related to the text amendment that we just heard. So I think that we can just not take it up and or do they need to defer this as well?
No, it needs to be deferred to.
Okay. So we
Okay,
can.
let's
do
get a
that.
motion to defer it then, so we just can't just not address it. Have a motion from Commissioner Fouché to defer text amendment 2024-04. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both items are deferred. Under new business, item A is department head updates.
Yes.
Savannah?
So I will start with, our finance officer isn't here, so I'm going to give you a very brief finance update. We currently have received $193,640 in donations for our Hurricane Helene Recovery Fund, which is amazing. Thank you all so much for your generosity. Water bills will be sent out on Monday. Those will reflect 2 months. Obviously, they shouldn't be too high because there wasn't a lot of usage in October. If you do get an unusually high bill, taking into consideration that it is for 2 months, let us know. There might have been a leak or something. We'll work with you, but and there'll be a note on your bill as well to remind everyone that it is for 2 months of billing. And then also, please do not pay your bill by dropping your payment into the box in the town hall parking lot. We're not currently working out of town hall right now. And we also just haven't looked in the box to see if it's gross, if there's snakes, and don't do that. Thank you. And then our Public Works Director, Barry, he is taking some time for himself this week, much deserved. So I'm going to give a brief Public Works update as well. And he wrote this, I'm just going to read it. Roadways. All roads are open for vehicular traffic. There may be some temporary interruptions while contractors make repairs. Please use caution. Go slowly. There is a lot of work going around a town. It's very busy. As I mentioned before, we are working towards getting roadways paved, but we do not yet have a timeline on that. Water. We have done all of the water tests required by the state of North Carolina at a state-approved lab. All of the results came back at acceptable levels. Our water continues to be in great shape and potable. Our water system is back to full operating capacity, and all sections of town should have a full supply of water. So contractors are working on making this is debris. Contractors have made a complete round around town, removing the debris that people are placing at the roadside. We're going to do one more round. So make sure, we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to put their debris on the roadside for us to remove. So go ahead and get your storm debris to the roadside. As I mentioned before, the debris at Welsh Field is only for public rights of way and public property. And we'll be working with a FEMA approved contractor on getting that removed. And we will be resuming our normal brush and leaf pickup. We resumed that yesterday. So please be patient with us while we get caught up. Last item is engineering. We are still in contact with multiple engineers on several areas of concern. And we're working on ideas and plans to make the best repairs possible. We're trying to do as much mitigation as possible to protect damaged areas from further damage in the future. And we should have a full damage assessment about our most concerning areas from the engineer soon, along with some proposed plans. So that's an update from Barry, and I'll ask the police chief to come up and do his update.
Savannah,
Yes.
you don't know how many severe damage areas he's identified to you? I know that he said there were about 64 projects.
Yes. what the engineer is defining as projects that are going to need to be engineered, there are only I believe 6, maybe 9 of projects that will need to be engineered and maybe have some specialty folks brought in.
GP?
The police department is resuming normal operations after the storm, conducting normal patrol and traffic enforcement. I would echo what Savannah's already mentioned, that we do have a new reserve officer, Brandon Collins. Brandon comes from us from Woodfin, from experienced officer from Woodfin. He grew up in the Shenandoah Valley, was a graduate of Owen High School and my alma mater, Appalachian State University. He also came and volunteered for free in the storm before he was sworn in as just helping as a civilian. Having a resurgence of increase of bear activity. Had a number of calls involving, bears entering porches, damaging vehicles. Very close by proximity in Black Mountain, we had there was a bear enter a lady's car that through an open, unlocked car door, and that can lead to a extremely dangerous encounter. So I'd encourage you to, keep car doors locked, keep your porches locked, keep your doors locked as always. Trash, when you visit the convenience center, try to make sure those locks are engaged when you leave. We made a point of asking officers when they come on nights to check that and reinforce it. But when the bears successfully get into that, we're rewarding them. So they return, and it's a good fishing hole for them. So they're going to revisit, and any of those encounters with those bears can be right dangerous. We have begun a policy review in the police department and working on some of those, updating those policies. And we're looking for other ways to kind of modernize what we're doing there. I would encourage you, the public, to call 911 in an emergency, crime in progress. For other reasons, if you need to meet with an officer, speak to an officer, have an officer call you, please call the Buncombe County Public Safety Communication Center. And that number is 828-250-6670. That's all I have currently, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Chief? Any questions?
Not of chief, or maybe, I don't know. I was wondering if anybody has a count on the number of houses that were damaged. I keep seeing more and more, signs that a house was damaged that I didn't know about.
No, Commissioner, we have not kept up on, I'm assuming you're talking about storm damage. No, that's not something the police department has been tasked to do, and it's not in the routine operations of the things that we.
Yeah, Buncombe County building inspectors did those damage assessments for us. We didn't get any type of report or anything like that, but I'm sure I could probably get one from them.
Any other questions? Item B is a budget amendment. Savannah?
Yes, so this budget amendment is transferring funds into Fund 29, which is our Hurricane Helene fund. So what we would like to do is to add in to this fund's donations received from Hurricane Helene since the last time we met. I also got clearance from First Bank to use the $100,000 loan that was taken out for Texas Road Bridge to move that $100,000 into Fund 29 for Hurricane Helene relief. And then also to appropriate the flood insurance payment for Town Hall. Excuse me, for the damage to Town Hall. The flood insurance payment, we would like to allocate that to Fund 29 as well.
Any questions of Savannah? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the budget amendment, making the transfers to the restoration fund.
I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Fouché. Any questions? Comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Item C is the proclamation for Public Works employees and Police Department. Savannah.
Yes, so we would just like to again recognize our Public Works and Police Department employees for their hard work over the last 6 weeks. And I am going to read this really quickly. This is Proclamation 24-11-001. Whereas Hurricane Helene brought unprecedented challenges and hardships to our community, testing the resilience and unity of the Montreat Cove. And whereas in the midst of this disaster, dedicated Town of Montreat Public Works employees and Town of Montreat police officers stepped forward with unwavering courage and commitment, embodying the spirit of compassion and solidarity. And whereas these employees worked long hours during the storm and continue to work tirelessly to ensure the recovery of our community. And whereas these dedicated individuals provided essential support, including emergency response, debris removal, resource distribution, and ensuring that our neighbors were safe and cared for during this difficult time. And whereas their selfless acts of service not only helped to mitigate the effects of the hurricane, but also strengthened the bonds within our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Montreat, extend our deepest gratitude to the Public Works and Police Department of Montreat, who dedicated their time, energy, and resources during Hurricane Helene. Your efforts have made a profound difference in the lives of many and have showcased the power of the community in times of crisis. We honor and celebrate these remarkable individuals whose actions remind us that we can overcome any challenge together.
We'll have a motion to adopt.
I move to adopt.
I have a motion from, who was that down there?
Grant.
Grant Dasher. I have a motion from Commissioner Dasher. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Second from Commissioner Widmer. Any discussion? All those in favor signify, go ahead.
Add Savannah's name to that list.
Yes.
Absolutely. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Discussion about utilizing a disaster management
Can
company.
I just add one thing to that? Can we make sure that each of those employees gets a copy of this?
We will, absolutely.
Item D, Savannah.
Okay, item D. So we're not taking a vote on this tonight. I just want to talk a little bit about using a disaster relief firm that might help us be able to get as much money back as possible. The proposal that you have in your packet is from IEM, which is the firm that Black Mountain is using. And essentially what they do is they're an emergency management company headquartered in North Carolina. They're actually at the Joint Task Force office in Hickory right now. And what they would do for us is basically take on the public assistance FEMA grant process. And what they do is they line up the right expenditure with the right bucket of money so that we can ensure we get the maximum return that we can for any money that's out there. I've been speaking with IEM, but what we would need to do is put out a request for proposals, which is, kind of what I'm trying to get a feeling for here tonight is if that's something that you're interested in. I would like to see getting 3 proposals back and then bringing those back to you to discuss. The way IEM is structured is that we would set a cap, a not to exceed value for what we would want to spend on their services. And then we would not exceed the available management cost funding for the federal and state share of cost. So what that means is we would want to see all of this get reimbursed from both FEMA and the state. It would probably be a likely 5% that they would take from our reimbursement, and that's how they get paid. But they can tailor this proposal to help us. Obviously, we're a smaller municipality. We're not going to need the heavy lift that somewhere like Asheville is going to need. So they also offer an hourly rate structure that we could look at. So their cost is picked up, I guess the better way to say that, their cost would be picked up as part of the grant. So why I'm interested in using a firm like this is because we are a small staff, we have limited capacity, and it's just the amount of time it takes and the paperwork and the research that it takes to manage FEMA's expectations, I am learning very quickly is a very heavy lift. And I just think that this would help maximize the amount of money that we get back. And so I would like to put a request for proposals out there just to see what other companies might be interested in working with us. And then also what services are available. And that they also mentioned some grants outside of FEMA as well that we could apply for, and they would help with that as well.
Stan, I personally would like to see those proposals, for the simple reason, as you mentioned, we have small staff. It's a lot to do to make sure we get every penny we're eligible for. And when companies do this, they work on a percentage basis. So the more they help us get, the better off they are also. So, and they're professionals at doing this. That's just my opinion. Commissioners?
I believe the same thing. With our staff as small as it is, I think that it would really be in our benefit to have professionals who do this all the time looking at that issue.
The only concern I had was I was afraid that this company might be inundated with work and might start hiring people that aren't as experienced as what we're expecting to get.
I can, and of course, we wouldn't necessarily be working with this particular company. We would need to put out a request for proposals. So in an ideal world, we would get to pick who we work with. I can imagine that they're all going to be busy. I know in the phone conversation I had with this company, they are going to actually have people in Black Mountain already, an experienced team, and they thought that maybe they would just, add some additional folks to this area to work on Montreat as well. I don't know, about their hiring practices or whatever, but whoever that if we decide to put out a request for proposals, we settle on a company, we can have them join a board meeting, and that would be a good question to ask at that time. I think that's a valid concern.
I'm certainly in favor of your moving forward with talking to some firms. The one thing that we'll need to do, though, is make sure that we put a calculator or pencil to it, because what we, suppose that we had $10 million of projects that we submit to FEMA on our own, or even on their behalf. But if we did it on our own, various calculations are we get about 75 cents on the dollar, and whether we'd get all 10 million approved anyway is a question. But in the case of using a firm, using that same example of 10 million, we would have to pay 5% on that 10 million of whatever we're getting back, which we wouldn't on our own if we did it. The real question then is, what kind of experience can they provide us to say, well, for every dollar that you get back, we get back $1.50. Or $1.25.
Right.
So we need to look at the financial trade-off on that.
Yeah, I think that's worth exploring. I believe that we will see, specifically from Hurricane Helene, I think we'll see a bigger cost share come out of both FEMA and the state, just because of the impact of the storm. Greater than the 85%, 75%. Yeah, I think we'll see a greater cost share.
Any other comments?
Is there anything that prohibits us from going ahead and authorizing a request for proposals? I don't know why we need to wait a month to do it. It seems like everybody's in favor of at least taking that first step. It would
Yeah.
seem to me sooner rather than later. So
I agree. Yeah. If you
there's
guys
no
are ready.
objection, I'll move that we authorize Savannah to go ahead and issue a request for proposals for these services.
I have a motion to request proposals. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Second from Commissioner Alexander. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Savannah, you have your marching orders. Okay. Okay. Public comment?
Jean Norris, 192 Mississippi Road, Flat Creek Crossing instigator. In a sense, this is premature to say anything about Flat Creek Crossing. We are still in the most preliminary conversation with funders and potential funders because the entire region is in a bit of turmoil right now. But one of the things, since we're talking about damage and reimbursements, one of the things that we've had an eye on is the footbridge just below the Memorial Garden or just beside the Memorial Garden, which is currently not in place. It is unclear to me personally who owns that footbridge and how urgently it needs to be replaced. But it seems like it's something that perhaps could be included in funding requests. I think it's part of the trail system. The way it's unclear, but it will need to be replaced at some point, and this could be an opportunity to find funding for it.
Thank you. I was good. Yeah, well, Tanner, do you know if it's y'all's bridge or our bridge? Okay.
I don't think it's ours. I think it's yours. Mad at Tanner.
I don't know the answer to that, but I will try to try to find that out. I know it's kind of a complicated sharing of stuff between on that whole trail. So we can talk about that.
We'll figure it out.
Savannah, I know that the one at the end of not Calvin, but Arbor Lane that crosses the creek does belong to the town. And it's gone somewhere.
Yes.
It's gone. And about 16 stopped me in the yard and asked me when they were going to replace it. Anyone else? Any other communication? Public? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Dates to remember. Town hall's closing early for Thanksgiving on Wednesday. Yes, sir.
I've got something under.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, I skipped over that, didn't I?
All right.
Mason?
Thank you. In the final public comment section of our September 12th Town Council meeting, Mary Standard raised a concern regarding the 2024 Town Council elections. She questioned why Montreat citizens were not informed that an election would be held for Commissioner Grant Dasher's seat until July 18th, just before the election qualification deadline. After Ms. Standard spoke, I explained that the town council's procedure did not allow us to respond to her at that time, but that we would take the time and make the effort to respond accurately to her comments. The town has now investigated what transpired and determined the facts about what occurred. Here is our report. These are the facts. On April 25th, 2024, Town Clerk Angie Murphy called the Buncombe County Board of Elections to inquire whether an election was required for the seat held by Commissioner Dasher, who had been appointed to that seat when Kent Hotto had resigned in 2023. Ms. Murphy was told that the elections would only be held for the mayor and the two council seats held by Commissioners Fouché and Alexander. After learning about this discussion, Commissioner Tom Widmer emailed Ms. Murphy and questioned the information given to her by the Board of Elections, indicating that he was under the impression Commissioner Dasher had to run for the final 2 years of Mr. Otto's term. In response to Commissioner Widmer's concern, Ms. Murphy called the Board of Elections staff a second time on April 26th, the very next day, 2024. She was again told Commissioner Dasher did not have to run for re-election. The Board of Elections staff stated that because the Town of Montreat's town charter did not require Commissioner Dasher to run for re-election, he could serve the entire original term of Mr. Otto, which expired in 2026. Relying on these repeated statements from the Buncombe County Board of Election, the town assumed that no election would be held for Commissioner Dasher's seat. Commissioner Dasher was informed that he did not have to run for re-election. The public was advised that only the mayor's seats and the seats held by Commissioners Fouché and Alexander were up for election. But on July 17th, just 2 days before the election qualifying period ended, Town Manager Savannah Parrish was called by the Buncombe County Board of Elections. She was told that after speaking with state officials, the Board of Elections had determined the seat held by Commissioner Dasher was required to be on the November ballot. This was the first time the town was told that an election for Commissioner Dasher's seat was required and that the seat would be on the ballot. This was also information directly contrary to what the town had been told previously. On July 17th, same day, Commissioner Dasher independently, before the town got the call from the Board of Elections, that his seat might be on the ballot in a conversation with a third party. All this is on the 17th. At 2:32 p.m., he sent an email to Ms. Parrish after he had that conversation to confirm that he did not have to run. At 3:46, Ms. Parrish responded to Commissioner Dasher, advising him that the Board of Elections had just told her an election for his seat was being held and that someone needed to qualify before the deadline to run for the seat. After learning this, Commissioner Dasher quickly made adjustments to his work schedule and qualified for the election on the very following day, July 18th. Also at 5:05 p.m. on the 17th, all this is happening in one day, Ms. Parrish advised the town council by email of the problem, seeking their input and advice on the best way for the town to address this situation. On the next day, the town acted as quickly as it could in the time allowed. July 18th, the town prepared and published a special edition of the Montreat Minute, alerting everyone on the town's email list that it had just learned Commissioner Dasher's seat would be on the ballot, would in fact be on the ballot, and that anyone interested in running needed to qualify by July 19th at noon. Additional information on qualification was included in the special Montreat Minute. Neither the town nor Commissioner Dasher was responsible for the Buncombe County Board of Elections' mistaken conclusion and representations that an election for Commissioner Dasher's seat was not necessary. Montreat's town charter had absolutely no bearing whatsoever on whether that seat was required to be on the November ballot. That was an issue solely of state law governed by 160A-63 of North Carolina General Statutes. The Buncombe County's Board of Elections' failure to recognize from the very beginning of this travesty back in April that North Carolina law required to be election was required for Commissioner Dasher's seat was due to its own misunderstanding or lack of knowledge about the law. Those are the facts, folks. I hope that puts to rest any suggestion that the town or any town official or staff member did not act openly and properly rather in connection with the elections. Thank you very much for your attention to this report, which I will give to the town clerk to enter in the public records.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Blake. Other commissioners' comments?
I'll just say, I guess, since it's about me, I got to say something, right? It was that was a stressful moment. We're scrambling. I think I had to like cancel some patients. Somebody got out of a root canal. They were probably excited about that, but it was a stressful moment. Obvious. Then there is everything that he just read. There is a trail of emails to verify all that. And I was told by a third party kind of last minute, and we scrambled to get it done. I'm very happy to be able to do this. I hate that in any way my service is I feel like it's a little bit marred in some way by this event, but I'm just grateful to be able to serve this town. I love this town. It is the best town in America. And I really do believe that. I'm thankful to live here, and I'm thankful to serve. And that's why I'm doing this. I want to serve the town. And I love this place. So I don't really have a lot else to say other than just thank you for allowing me to do this. So.
Other commissioners' comments?
I'd just like to let everybody know that there was an accident on Monday night where a young man who was running on Assembly Drive was hit by a car. Fortunately, he's okay. He got out of the hospital today. He was running on Assembly in the bike lane. The individual hit him, and it was a very unfortunate circumstance. I think there are a lot of takeaways from this. One, we all need to be very aware of runners, whether they are correctly running or not. In reality, the bike lane is just for biking. It is not for running or mothers pushing baby carriages or other kinds of things like that. So we need to be aware of that. We need to be careful with our speed as well as keeping our eyes open, especially if it's dark. And I think the other point is that we need to warn runners of this potentiality. We live on Assembly, and I see a lot of college runners running 2 and 3 abreast, and and we need to warn them of that as well. So we're all in this together. We don't want to happen what happened to Jacob to somebody else. So we just need to pass that word on.
Thanks, Al. Other commissioners' comments? Anyone? I got 2 things before I wrap up and give the dates to remember. First of all, at the end of last month's meeting, where we had a joint meeting with the budget committee, getting our budget, or it's not our budget, but our audit into the state. There was an individual in the community that took exception to my recap of the meetings, in that I don't write those. Tom Widmer writes those for me, and anybody who's ever asked me about those, saying how much they appreciate it, I always said, well, Tom writes a heck of a good letter for me, but I don't have time during the meeting to write the minutes of this meeting or a recap of this meeting. Tom has been gracious enough to do that, and if the individual takes exception to that, I'll tell her that the governor, or, I've had secretaries write letters for me before, and as long as I approve the content, it's coming from me. So if that upsets somebody, they're just going to have to be upset. The other thing I wanted to say is thanks to MRA for all they've done. They've given us space on the ball field to put all the debris. They've done many, many things. This room, office space for the office staff, they have bent over backwards to help us, and it's that kind of cooperation between MRA and the town and the college that's gonna help us to move forward in the future. Because we're all in this valley together, and we have to work together to make it better. So with that, I'll read the list of upcoming meetings. Town Hall is closing early for Thanksgiving on Wednesday, November the 27th at noon. Town Hall closed for Thanksgiving Thursday, November the 28th, and Friday the 29th. Bulk pickup, white goods pickup, Tuesday, December the 3rd. Planning and Zoning Commission meeting tentative on Wednesday, the December the 11th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. and locations to be determined. December Town Council meeting Thursday, December the 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Public forums at 5:30. Locations to be determined yet. Town Hall is closed for Christmas holiday, Wednesday, December the 25th, and Thursday, December the 26th. With that, I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Yes, sir. That's what it says here.
It's the 12th,
The 12th.
the 12th.
12th. Thank you, because I wasn't going to be here on the Saturday. Okay, anyone else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Have a motion from Commissioner Alexander to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Fouché. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate your public input.